You're listening to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. Welcome back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. I'm your host, Jennifer Garrity. I'm a screenwriter, filmmaker, and the creator and founder of the Paris Underground Radio podcast network. Each week, I sit down with an artist or creative to talk about what inspires them, what their creative process is like, and how Paris plays into it all. Born and raised in Paris, Aurélie Dhuit followed her curiosity for physics into university, where she fell in love with graphic design. Then 7 years ago, Aurélie followed her passions once again, moving from Paris to Perche and beginning a new career as a wedding and event florist. As a graphic designer, Aurélie has worked with big names like Longchamp, Roger&amp, Issey Miyaki, and Jean Paul Gaultier. As a florist, Aurélie creates lush, wild arrangements, teeming with romance, freedom, and joy. Hello, Aurélie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
I am very excited to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yes, I don't know exactly how long.
I don't either, but it was before the pandemic. So
yeah.
It's been a long time. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Aurélie, I'm a French female, I can say.
Sure.
I'm about me. I like culture, art, and I like to be in nature. And I am a graphic designer. I've been for 20 years, and I'm now a florist as well, an event florist, like a wedding florist. For now, it's 6 years, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of me.
Fabulous. So I'm curious about you at a younger age. Were you an artistic child?
I want to say I was not, but I think I was. I was more a scientist. I was loving science, physics, and mathematics. I do not for now. I do not anymore. I do like science, but I'm not loving math now. But I wanted to be a physicist.
Wow.
Yeah, I really wanted to learn about universe and chaos and about everything. So I was focused on that. It's something that has been revealing to me, if I can say that. But when I think about my childhood, I think I always been like a creative mind. I always wanted to create something with my hands. I wanted to do some decor for Christmas, or I wanted to I remember making like a wardrobe in paper for my house. Yeah, I don't know why I remember that, but I always wanted to create something. But I didn't really think about liking it or making something of it. I was like, yeah, I like to do this, but I really want to be a scientist. So no, I was not. I was a creative mind, but I didn't know at the time I was.
It's very interesting. And so was your family more scientifically minded or more artistically minded, or neither?
Yeah, actually, they kind of are, but they were more artistic, but didn't, I don't know how to say that. My father is an architect, so he creates, he's doing really nice drawing. And my mother was working at the time, in the music industry. She was not in the creative part exactly, but she was working in really creative industry. But art was not part of our family in some kind. So I couldn't say they were artistic, but they were actually, and they were in with nature, because they create their garden really in a creative way. So yeah, they were, but they didn't show really this side of their mind. I don't know how to explain that.
No, you've explained it very well. It was more of like a subtle undercurrent than a explicit artistic kind of family.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. So it was always sort of there.
Yeah, there, but not really obvious. So no, I didn't think I had a creative family. And after that, I understood what my one of my sister was doing, and she was in a creative industry as well because she was in, I don't know, graphic. She was not a graphic designer, but she helped graphic design with. I don't know how to say that in English, but she was LP graphic designer. But I didn't know really that at the time when I was little. And after that, I worked with her because I am graphic designer, but I didn't realize she was like in creative area as well. So yeah,
It's interesting. So your family really channels their creativity into their work.
exactly. But we didn't do like anything or create something when I was little. They didn't take time to have an afternoon creating something. So it was not something obvious. It was just there, but I didn't realize that.
So how do you go from wanting to be a physicist to graphic design?
So I was in university studying mathematics, and physics. And I was like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be a teacher. I'm not really interested in what I can do after. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like following the course, but didn't know what I want to do. And I stopped university because I really didn't know where it gets me. So I stopped and I start to work at a restaurant. And one day I had a friend of mine who came back from her university and tell me about this project that she has to do. And she has to explain a point, visually speaking. And she was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting to do. I want to do that. I don't know why, but I thought it was really interesting. So I start to go to the CIDJ. So it's kind of place where you can learn about different jobs you can do when you're a student. So I went there and I was like looking at this work that she wanted to do. It's in communication. And the more I learn about those jobs, the more I learn about graphic design. And at some point, I told myself, yeah, I want to be a graphic designer. That's what I want to do. And I remember myself like looking at advertising and telling myself, oh, this ad, it's not great. It could be this and that. And so I guess I had this in me all along. But yeah, and so that was the day I knew I wanted to be a graphic designer when I saw that in the CIDJ, what I told you, like graphic design, what it is. And yeah, I knew I wanted to do that.
And so you switched to a different university or a different program?
Yes, I went to school because you have to do 1 year of, I don't know, it's called prepa.
It's a preparatory year. We don't really do that in the US, but it's a year where you sort of study everything to get you ready to go to university.
That exactly. And I had to learn to paint, to draw. I was supposed to learn to paint and draw, but I never did. I don't know how to draw, but I can be a graphic designer. So I learned for 1 year to do that. So I can add exams for going in a graphic design school.
And when you were in graphic design school, did it feel like the right place for you?
I remember the first week I had every day we had 1 or 2 exams to see our potential. I was crying all the time because that was so hard and I didn't know how to draw. I didn't know anything. And I was like, oh no. But I remember on the last day, the last exam, that was something about graphic design more specifically, not painting, not drawing, not. And I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So yeah, I knew and I keep it going. And yeah, I became a graphic designer after 4 years.
That's amazing. You've reminded me when you were talking. I haven't thought about this in forever, but I went to school. I went to an acting university, or I went to university for acting, I should say.
Okay.
And I studied set design while I was there. I had this phenomenal teacher named Michael Krass. He was designing costumes and sets for all these shows on Broadway. He was amazing. And he gave us a project my very first semester there where we had to go out. This was in New York City, and he said, take like 50 photographs, something like that, a huge amount of photographs, and take them in the style of a certain kind of movie. And he told us what movie. And so I got science fiction.
Oh, nice.
And so I had to go around and take all these photographs of the city through a science fiction lens. And it changed the whole way that I looked at everything.
Oh, yeah.
And something about what you just said about how thinking about graphic design and your friend coming in and opening up this whole other world to you through this project reminded me of that. I haven't thought about that in forever.
Nice. That's a nice project, actually.
It was a very cool project. And he gave us styles of films that we wouldn't be drawn to naturally. Like I'm not naturally a sci-fi person.
Yeah.
And so when he gave it to me, I was like, what am I going to do with this? But if you walk around New York City and you look at all sorts of fire hydrants and all sorts of things, there were just, everything looks like aliens. So I made this whole crazy story about aliens, and it was amazing. Anyway, he's a phenomenal teacher.
Yeah, it was. I remember this project with my font teacher, and she asked from us to find letters in the city, in Paris, and we find all the letters in Paris in different, not the real letters, but in like a door, like the arch on the door, you can find a letter, or on the glasses, when you go to a glass, I don't know what it's called, but you have this kind of G shape.
From the eyeglass shape.
Yeah.
That's a great project.
Yeah, I really loved it. Yeah, I think I still have it, but yeah, great teachers we had.
Well, anything that shifts the way that you look at the world to make you see something you've never seen before is very cool.
Yeah.
So, how do you go from graphic design to becoming a florist?
So, for me, it's kind of creative thing, both of them. So, it's not really a big step, but I think it was step by step. The first step was I was in a co-working space, and the tradition there at that time was that you had to present yourself, and you had someone interviewing you. And the last question was, if you were not a graphic designer, what would you have done? And it was like, okay, what a florist. And it just came out like this. So I was like, oh, okay. And after that, the thing that made me become a florist is my mother, because she always had flower on her garden in the countryside, because her parents had a house there, and she had herself a house after that. So she always grew some flowers. So, but I wasn't like loving the flower all the time and taking it to create bouquet. I wasn't like that, but unfortunately she died, and I started to create bouquet to go see her and put on the cemetery. And I was like creating bouquet with a flower, and I was like enjoying myself really. And after 1 year of creating bouquet, my sister at a lunch told me, okay, when are you becoming a florist? And I was like, what? What's happening to me? And after that I was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think I like that. But at that moment, I remember that I was looking to this florist course for like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing why. I was like going there, looking at it, close the website and going my way. And I was like, okay, I think there is something there for a long time. And at that moment, I was like thinking about it. And at some point, I told 2 of my friends, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. I don't know why, but I'm going to do that. And I did.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I think sometimes my mind is working on her own, and I'm like a different person. I'm like, okay, you're right. I'm going to do that. You're absolutely right.
It sounds like that, but it also sounds like then you have other people who come in to tell you what your brain is thinking.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Like your friend, and then your mom in her own way, and then your sister.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's really, you're in kind of path, and You just think, okay, that's my path. I have to do that. And sometimes there's people telling you, oh, but you can go another way if you want to. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I can go there.
It's true. Sometimes you need someone externally to say, this is obviously what you want to do. For you to be like, oh, yeah, it is obviously what I want to do.
I didn't know, but yeah.
Are you a book lover who's always looking for the next best book? Or an avid reader who'd love the chance to ask their favorite author a question? Well, then you might like my other podcast, Storytime in Paris, where I interview writers with a French connection with questions that come from you, the author's fans and followers. Then, the authors treat us to a reading from their books. Listen now to Storytime in Paris on parisundergroundradio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back with City of Muses after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. So, part of the premise of this podcast is talking about a connection to Paris, the City of Muses. You know, does it help or does it hinder? And I know that you made a very definite decision to leave Paris.
Exactly. 7 years ago.
Why did you do that?
So I was born in Paris. So Paris is my home and it always will be my home. But I wanted to be surrounded by nature. I really enjoy nature. I really need forests, need trees and woods, and I really need that. But I didn't know I needed that much at that time. But I wanted to try. I wanted to have space and see animals and be like somewhere quieter. So yeah, I decided to leave, but I tried before I left. I tried going to my father's house for quite some time to see if I really wanted to leave Paris, because yeah, Paris is it's Paris, and I didn't think I was going to leave Paris when I was younger, and now I'm happy to have lived. I think that the best is to live in the countryside and to go in Paris to enjoy it, because you have so many things to enjoy, but you don't when you are in Paris, because you go from your work to your house to your dinner with a friend, and you don't really enjoy Paris as much as you should, because there's so many great things to do.
Yeah, I think that's true. I feel the same way. I'm from New York. I spent most of my life in New York, and I thought I would always live in New York. But there's something about not living there that allows me to really appreciate it when I'm there, instead of taking it for granted or just feeling the stress of it.
Exactly. I really do feel the same about Paris. Yeah.
So how was the transition into creating your floral company and becoming an actual wedding florist?
Most of the time, it feels like when I'm creating a project, it feels like the project is building itself. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what you want to do. Because I want to allow it to, I don't know how to say that, but I want it to have a really mind on its own, like not shape it exactly the way my mind wants to do it. I really do feel like you can learn from it. You can create something different that you thought, but that is going to be really interesting after all. And so you have to allow the space. You have to have the space to create something. So I was like, one step at a time. Like, I'm going to find a name. And after that, I'm going to find a space. And after that, I'm going to open an Instagram account. And after that, I'm going to do something. And yeah, it was create at some point. It was there. The project was there. But if I'm like, okay, I have to create a project, and now I have to do this because I want to do 100 wedding this year, and I want to do that. And it's so stressful. So I'm like, okay, keep it simple and keep it a game. For me, it's like play with your project. Be serious, okay, but play with it.
Yeah, there should be joy in it.
Right, exactly. Have fun with it and step by step. And yeah, of course, I did have to pay my rent, but I have another job, so I could do that. So yeah, it was really, I think it took me 2 years really to have this project really going.
I mean, that's not bad, 2 years.
No, it's not just going, not really working, just
But still to come from outside of the world and jump in 2 years, it's still impressive. So let's talk about the name, Les Ombelles. So I think in English, it's the same word, umbels, but it's not something I'd ever heard of. So why this flower? Why this name?
yeah. It took me 1,005 names before I came to this one.
Okay.
So yeah, I really looked for it. I wanted, why les ombelles? Les ombelles is not a flower per se. It's a family of flower. It's les ombellifères. It's a family of flower, but it's a Anne Grace.
Queen Anne's lace.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the flower of this family, and I wanted to do something like really natural, and at the same time you can think about wedding. And for me, this family of flower, it's like lace. You have the name in the English name. It's really like really delicate. It's white and it's really natural. You have those type of flower everywhere on the roads and everywhere on the countryside. So yeah, it feels like the right name. But yeah, I really had to
1,005 is a lot.
And I remember exactly when I found it. I was in Nantes walking, and I say, oh, Les Ombelles. Yeah, that's the name. So yeah, and there is not everyone remember it because there is a word in French, les ombrelles, and an ombrelle is like something to protect you from the sun.
Like a parasol.
Exactly. Yeah, but a small one. Yeah, you say the delicate one you had women had in the 18th century, like the really nice one. So yeah, but I like the name.
It's a pretty association too.
Yeah, it's really delicate. Yeah.
So how do you go about creating a floral style for a wedding?
So the first thing for me is to talk with my clients. They have the key. They don't know that because they can't say, I want this flower, I want this style, or sometimes they know, but most of the time they don't know. But the way they said something, the way what they can show me, what they can tell me or not tell me, it's really, really important for me. So I can kind of learn to know them really. And after that, I'm starting to see what they are and to match my flower with who they are, their history, what they like, what they. So most of the time they give me the color of the wedding and sometime theme, but not all the time. So I'm working from there.
How much do you think about the scent of the flowers when you're creating a bouquet?
I have to say, I'm thinking about it. The first thing is if it's too strong, like bugs can come and it can be
Ah,
hurtful. Like, yeah. So not too much
you
because
don't want a bride being stung by a bee at the altar.
exactly. And lots of flowers don't really have a smell, actually. And some of them have a really bad smell. And you know the baby breath?
Mm-hmm.
Every, not every, but lots of brides want baby breath. It's absolutely, I know, disgusting. The smell is disgusting. So I can think about that not to be too strong for dinners, for example. You want to smell what you are going to eat, not the flower, because sometimes it could be really, really strong. So it's kind of I want something to smell in the bridal bouquet. So she can have this gesture like to have a bouquet in front of her nose and like smelling it. So I want that, but not too strong. Like, yeah. And for the dinner, I don't want the flower to be too strong. So you're really not enjoying your food.
It feels like a very French answer, but I really like it.
food is important for us.
What do you think would surprise people about what you do as a florist?
I think it's like for so many jobs, actually, but the hours behind what we do. Like myself, when I started floristry, I was like, "Oh, flower, it's so nice," and I'm gonna go in the land, not in land, in
The fields.
the field, yeah, and the field going cut my flower, and it's gonna be really nice. And no, it's not that. So it's really long hour. Really, you have to be creative, strong, and yeah, the flower part is really small after all, and it's the most interesting and the most beautiful part. But you have a lot of work to do, and one of the thing is going to the Rungis market, which is the florist. No, the floral market.
Yeah, the flower market.
Flower market, yeah. And thank you. And I have to wake up at 1 a.m. on Monday to go there.
Oh my God.
And to come back and to like, I don't remember how it's called in English because I did my floristry course in England, but I can't remember, but to prep my flower. So, and for me, I call it spa day for flower. And it's really, really long day, sometimes more than 20 hours from the day. So that's the thing people don't realize. They really think we are cutting off flowers and just putting in vases and that's it. But yeah, they're like princesses. They're really delicate and they need some temperature, room, and they need attention to be really beautiful. But yeah, they're princesses. I'm at their service. And I like that.
Speaking of princesses,
yeah,
brides have a reputation, especially when it comes to just before the wedding and all of the different details. Are the rumors true? Do you deal with a lot of bridezillas?
I have to say I'm really glad because I don't have a lot of bridezilla. I really have really nice brides and really fun brides, I have to say. I had some bridezilla, but the thing is, it's more for them than for me because the way I work is that they have to be confident in my work. So that's part of the deal. So I don't have them on the phone like, okay, I'm a flower, okay, or I want this, not that, but yeah, I want this after all, and not. No, they're not like that. They just trust me, and they have the surprise at their wedding day. The thing that for me is more painful, it's when they're really anxious about whether or if everything's going to be perfect, or if the mother is going to be happy, or the father, or the aunt, or any. And I'm like, you have to be happy with you and your husband. That's it. After that, that's not your problem. You have to enjoy your day. And sometime this year, I had a bride who, sorry, but throw up 3 times because of the weather on the morning of her wedding. And she was really anxious and was like, no, don't be anxious. Just enjoy. Okay, it's not sunny day, but who cares? You're with the person you love, and that's what matters. So don't beat yourself up. Just enjoy yourself. And she was really happy with the final result. And yeah. So not a lot of bridezilla. I had some. So yeah, that much.
Is Paris the most romantic city in the world? Host Lily Heisey answers this very question in her podcast, Romancing in Paris, which takes you through the city, arrondissement by arrondissement, by exploring the most romantic and hidden spots Paris has to offer. Listen now to Romancing in Paris on parisundergroundradio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back with City of Muses after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. We haven't talked about your floral style. It's very lush and wild and beautiful. How would you describe your floral style?
For me, it's really, it's changing with it was really natural at the beginning, and now it's more fun and colorful.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, for me, it's natural in the way that flowers tell me how they want to be. Like, I don't like the French flower style, I have to say, because it's really all the flower gather really, I don't know how to say
Tight.
that. Right, exactly. And I don't like that. They can't breathe, they can have room, they can be themselves and be beautiful. So I like for them to be really lush, like you said, like a kind of free, So it's like a garden in your hand. For me, it's like a garden in your hand. It can be colorful, white, green, but it's a garden in your hand.
It feels like that when I look at the photographs. It feels free. It feels joyful. It just feels like this big, wild, exuberant party.
Good.
Which I think is what you want from your flowers.
Yeah, I want that. And that, for me, it's my kind of my babies. I have to say. So I talk to them. I really do. And I want to. You don't have to say that to the bride, but I want them to be the star. Not because it's my work, but because someone cut them, so they're dead. And I want them to have a purpose, to be really beautiful, and everyone can look at it and say thank you to them. I'm getting a bit emotional when I'm talking about them, but yeah, I want them to be dead for a purpose and to be really beautiful.
That's beautiful. You are getting very choked up. That's that's really beautiful. So where can people find you if they want to hire you as a graphic designer or experience your beautiful flowers in person?
So they can find me on Instagram for my more florist work, Les Ombelles Floristerie. And I have a website as well. But for the graphic design part, it's more like my website. I don't have an Instagram, but it's my website, and it's www.auréliedhuit.com in French.
Perfect. I'll put links to all of that so people can find you. And if you're okay, I would love it if you'd send me some pictures of your flowers and all that. We could put that on our social media as well so that people can find them there too.
Yeah, thank you. Would love to. And yeah, you can find me on TikTok for the flower now.
Oh, fun. Well, thank you so much, Aurélie. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you. That was really nice to have this little chat together.
Thank you for listening to City of Muses. If you've liked what you heard, please take a moment to rate and review it. This is the fastest and easiest way to help support the podcast. Tell a friend who could use a little inspiration. You can also subscribe to the Paris Underground Radio newsletter over on our website, parisundergroundradio.com, which comes out every Sunday and gives a little peek into what's on the network for the week ahead. I'm your host, Jennifer Garrity. You can find me on all socials at Jennyphoria. That's JennyPhoria. Thank you for listening, and may you find inspiration wherever you go. City of Muses was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio.